All right. Yes. Yes. Welcome back to Us versus Life. And I appreciate it for everybody that has listened so far. And more importantly, I hope that anyone that has listened has been helped. That is the point, as we've said here before, is just to help everybody that we can. And so today, the topic is time. Yes, time. 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 Oh man. Time. I call time the great equalizer. We're going to talk about why. Time is, whew, man, time is, it's one of, it's very important. I was hesitant to say that time is the most important thing. That's why I was kind of like, because there are a lot of important things. Remember, as I always say, there's levels, but time. Listen, time, time is up there. So let's get into it. Let's talk about it a little bit. And as always, you know, I encourage you to like, share, subscribe. This is a new channel. It's a small channel, and we're just trying to help people. That's it. I mean, you ain't trying to do anything. You know, we're just trying to help people. If you want to help people, help people. If you're listening to this, like, share, subscribe, and maybe the community can grow, and we can go out in the community and help more people. That's the goal. But yeah, time. Yeah, I have to laugh about that time because man, it's so powerful. I almost want to put time at the top of everything. But I need more information and proof before I can do that. But I'm telling you, as you guys can see, I'm a little bit excited because I'm telling you that time, ooh, it is very, very powerful. So let's talk about the power of time just for a second. I said a second. I mean, for a little bit of time. We'll talk about time. Let's say you wanna you wanna I don't know. I, I'm hesitant in my words because it's that powerful. Let's say you want to. Mm, 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 mm. So many things to talk about. Let's say you want to grow your hair longer. Let's go with that. The reason I was so hesitant is because there were so many things that I could have said or talked about at that time, and no pun intended. But a lot of puns are not going to be intended because time is that important. We live by it. Uh, we'll talk about that more too. But anyway, let's just choose. You want to grow your hair longer because I picked that one because it's very simple. For a lot of people, if you cut your hair, In time, whatever length of time there may be, it will grow back. Now, understand that some people may say, because I try to be all inclusive, they may say, "Well, look, I'm not. I'm dealing with a different situation. You know, if I cut my hair, it's not going to grow back. Or if I cut my hair, I don't have. Let me restate that. I don't have any hair to cut for any reason. Well, I'm still talking about time here. I have not forgotten about anybody because time affects us all. I just chose that one simple example. So that's like the, I don't know how you want to say it, the simple introduction to time. That's like the basic introduction. Like, hey, do you recognize? Let me see if I can say this better. Do you recognize the fact that if you cut your hair, that if you give it enough time, your hair will grow back? For a lot of people, not for everybody, but for a lot of people, right? So if you can recognize that, then listen to the rest. We will try to discuss this in a manner that is logical. Is that the right word? um, no, I don't. We don't have to say logical. The point is to make this make the most sense to where it becomes beneficial. Because you know, I'm not interested in trying to, you know, say something just to say it or any of that. It's about the impact, and we want the impact to be beneficial to you, the listener. So whatever we need to say to make that happen, that's what we want to do. This is us versus life. This is not some type of arbitrary or, oh, it doesn't matter type of situation. It matters because you matter. You understand? So, so time. If we can start to respect time and put it in its proper perspective, as a, if you listen to the other videos on this channel, you have heard that word, and maybe you'll start to see a pattern. You'll be like, why is that word keep being said? Perspective, perspective, because it's important. I want you to hear that, whether you believe it or not. I want you to hear that because your perspective affects your understanding, and your understanding affects how you behave, and your behavior affects the outcomes you get from your life. So it's very important, in my opinion, uh, as I've explained what I mean by when I say my opinion before in other videos. So, time, right? How important is it? What exactly is it? Because I think we've all lived time, but have we really looked into it? Have we placed an importance value on time, and have we assessed how important it may be? That's just a question. Just a question. I think it's a question worth asking. All right, so okay, let's talk about this. Let's say for you, for example, you listening, I try to clear up my words, but I'm a Southerner. If you can't tell, and I don't always speak as clear. I'm trying. So let's say you have a goal in mind for your life. You want to be a uh, teacher. Well, once you come into an understanding, as we talked about in the other video, um, about choosing your path, that's what I said, like, as I've said, these things are connected, then you will come to see that, hey, uh, I need to do certain things to accomplish this goal, and is it worth it? Let's say you assume that it is worth it, or you don't assume it's worth it. You just start doing it and you think it's too much. So this is where time and the understanding of time comes into play. So let's get to some realistic numbers, right? Because this is important. This is not like some person here talking and being like, oh, well, if you research this statistics and that statistic, then you come up with the answer. No, I want you to understand that this is your reality. What's the average lifespan for you as a person, male or female, whatever race you are? So you got to put these things in perspective, into context, because what will happen is you may think 4 or 5 years is this big thing, and if you're not looking at the big picture, then you don't realize that 4 or 5 years means not a lot. So at this point, I tell you what, let me take a quick break. I'm going to play the song right now, and I want you to think about what I just said. Are you thinking about things in the proper context? And I'll be right back.
This is the place. Where we'll fight for a happy life. Yeah. We fight for happiness each day. Welcome to us versus life. Together we ignite the passion for living our best life. Join the world when movement is us versus life. This is us versus life. It is us versus life. This is us versus life. Versus life. This is us versus life.
All right, I am back. Hopefully you enjoyed the song. But yeah, like I said, let's start to put things in the proper context if we can when we're thinking about, what we want to do. Like I said, in one of the prior videos, we talked about your path choice. Did you choose the right path? You need to put things in a proper context, would be my recommendation. So hopefully I explained that well enough. It's very important, or else I wouldn't say it, that context matters. If this is simple, then great. That's what I want. Because let me say something very clearly. The most profound things that you can hear are the things you understand. Because something you may hear could be very profound, but if you don't understand it, then it means nothing to you. Okay? So time, right? But we're using an example of the time it may take to accomplish a goal. And if your perspective is not proper, you may think, well, I give up. I don't want to do it. It takes too long. It takes 4 or 5 years. 4 or 5 years is nothing relative to the expected life of a human being. Let's just cut to the chase. Let's just say that right off the bat. Let's just put this in the right perspective. If you are basing your life decisions and expectations and judgment, we talked about that a little bit, off of 4 or 5 years, you're making a mistake. A mistake that I have made, a mistake that I think many of us make, is that our point of view is too short term, and we are not comparing it to the long term as it should be, because everything you do, every decision you make should be compared to the long term, the big picture, not the short term. Make no mistake about it, because that's how we get into trouble. That's just my advice. That's just what I've noticed. Again, based on the data that I've gathered, my own life experiences, and the statistics that you could research for yourself. Let me give you an example. What I try to do um, when I'm talking to anyone is offer some credibility. So let me offer a little bit of credibility, which I haven't done a lot of to date on this channel, but I want to offer a little bit now. So if you want to be a millionaire, or if you see a millionaire and you think that person became a millionaire in 2 weeks, you see what I'm saying? If you talk to them, they may say, no, it took me X amount of time. And this is why time is so important. So we're going to go, let's see, how should I put this? A little bit deeper than we normally have gone on this channel, because time is really that important. But I would ask that you stay with me uh, and stay with us as we go on this journey on this channel, because all we're trying to do is help. We're not trying to harm anybody. If you find any good of it, take that. If you find anything negative, just disregard it. That's all you got to do. You don't have to do anything other than that. Just say, oh, I like that part. It makes sense to me. Right or wrong, it doesn't matter. Take whatever benefits you and disregard the rest. Feel free to do that. I would encourage you to do that uh, in your life as a whole. That's another conversation. But anyway, so when you look at time, right, and you understand, let's say for example, that you will live, uh, if you're fortunate, uh, let's say based on the data, 75 years. That's a fair number across the board, no matter who you are, male or female, etc. Right? So if you take 75 years and you say, I got to make a decision that takes, see, you got to understand now, I'm making a decision that's going to take me 3 years of 75 years, but you base your decision off of 3 years versus the totality of 75 years, this is where we potentially are going in error. because 75 years is greater than 3 years. I mean, it's easy, right? Come on. I mean, I think we all can see that. But if that's not clear enough to you, what I'm saying is, let's say you're 21 years old and you're going into college and you say, man, I gotta go through 3 years of college to get to this degree that I want, to get to this career path that I want. If you're the person that will say, well, 3 years is a long time, that's what I'm talking about. 3 years versus your entirety of life, it's worth the investment. Don't forget that. Let's say, for example, you are uh, in a certain part of your life to where you're like, I gotta do this for 3 years to get to a better part of my life. I just said that before, but I'm saying it in a different way. Let's say you're like, I gotta put 3 years into this process to get to the better part of it. You know, imagine you're walking a path and the path comes to a point to where there's a down part of the path. You got to walk downward and it's deep. But as you walk deep into that path, you see that there's a point where it starts to go up, but you realize you got to climb to get up to the top. And that climbing is tough, and going down was tough. It's all tough. And you say, well, it's going to take me X amount of time to get from the down part. And then I got to get down there to the bottom, and then I can get back to the top. You see what I'm saying? That's all inclusive of time, perspective, and put it in the proper context. Because it may take, like, if you're walking along a path, that path is, say, 5 miles long until you reach that point where you realize you got to go down. That part of it is 2 miles long. Let's say it's hard, it's long, it's tough. It's 2 miles. So you walk 5 miles on an on a fairly equal and easy to walk on path. You know, relatively speaking, it's you can walk it. It's not hard. It's not going down. It's staying the same. Then you get to the point where it dips, and let's say it takes 2 years to get down it and back up it again. But once you get back up it again, you're back on a level path. And then that level path lasts for another 5 years. You understand what I'm saying? Would you throw away 10 years of walking on the easier path compared to that down path for 2 years of the down path? That wouldn't make a lot of sense. Now, I'm not saying it's not hard. I'm not saying you're not tired. You may say, well, I walked those paths downward for a long time. I'm suggesting, have you considered that you're not putting it in perspective of, is that the totality of what is to be for your life, what can happen for your life, and what has happened, right? Or vice versa. It didn't matter, what has happened, whichever is greater, right? That's I guess a simple way to look at it. What's greater? Will you, are you saying that what's greater is that your life will always be in a downward decline? Or are you thinking that what's greater is your life could be in an upward trajectory or an even trajectory? It's staying the same. And there's nothing wrong with your life staying the same. Nothing wrong with that. Let's not be confused about this, because there are some people that can tell you that, hey, my life has been downward. Understand this. There are some people that say, my life has been downward for a long amount of time and ain't had no, uh, uh, you know, any, uh, any light at the end of the tunnel that I can see. That's what I was trying to get to. It can be like that sometimes, where you could be like, oh, I see the other side of it. All I got to do is climb back up here. But sometimes it gets so bad, you're like, I can't even see where I'm going to get out of this. Stick with it. Life is short. I think as some people have described it. But life is long at the same time, right? It just depends on how you perceive it. So we're talking about time, right? And how important it is to put time in its proper perspective and context. And so, if you can kind of follow, or if you want to follow, it's just advice. We're just talking. As I've said before, it will forever be the goal of this channel. We're not telling you what to do, just trying to help, right? If it's helpful, great. Anyway, so if you understand that part of time and that context that we just talked about it, then we can start to go a little bit deeper. Because I said that I would go a little bit deeper than normal, and that's what I'm going to do right now. So it's going to get a little bit, I don't know what word a person would use. You pick the word once you hear it. But I would say time doesn't even exist. Yeah, I just went there. I just jumped right into it. Time is not a fabrication of your mind. Time is your perception of your reality. How do you perceive the reality of your life? You're putting it in the context of time because someone has stated that we should calculate time via seconds, minutes, hours, days, and all of these things, weeks, months, years, etc. Think about what I'm saying. Think about if someone didn't apply that concept on time. Think about if you just existed without those parameters of you seeing a watch or a calendar or what have you. Then you would just be like, it's perhaps a new day. And you would just probably say to yourself, I recognize that the sun goes up and it goes down, maybe you would say, or maybe the sun is bright and it's not, and then the new sun appears. Yeah, I'm just saying, like, if you were like that unaware, you'd be like, a new sun appears at night and it's a different color to your eyes, right? I'm putting it in that context for a reason, right? So whatever it may be, if you can just take yourself out of this modern thought process of what time is it? It's 9 o'clock a.m. It's 9 o'clock p.m. It's 9 o'clock a.m. It's time for me to get started. It's 9 o'clock p.m. It's time for me to think about not doing what I would do at 9 a.m. You understand what I'm getting at? It's like, okay, it's 12 o'clock p.m. It's time for me to eat. It's 12 o'clock a.m. It's time for me to sleep. Okay, so just consider that maybe that's not what you, hesitant to say that. Just consider the fact that that's what you were told, but it's not so much necessarily what you have to do. Let's put it that way. Who says you can't work at 3 a.m.? Who says you can't go to sleep at 2 p.m.? right? Well, you might say, well, my job says so, or that's my point. That's what you were given. But if you put that to the side, what would you want to do at these various hours of the day that you were told are hours of the day of this month, of this year, etc.? I guess what I'm trying to suggest to you is that perhaps time doesn't really exist. It's just something that we manufactured.
Yeah. We fight for happiness each day. Welcome to us versus life. Together we ignite the passion for living our best life. Join the worldwide movement. It's us versus life. This is us versus life.
And so it becomes, what are we going to do with the time that we've been given as we understand it? Right? And that's a loaded question. Uh, and I don't get into playing any type of, tedious games or anything. That's not what this is about. Just about, like I said, us helping each other. But that is a valid question. Like, what are you going to do with the time that you've been given as society has described it? And then what are you going to do with the time that you would define for yourself? That's why I said that. I want you to understand it both ways. One, society will dictate to you that time is this. It's this calendar year, is you are this old, it is this time of day, you should do this at this time of day, etc., etc. That's fine. But contrast that to what you will choose to believe. Have you even thought about what you want to do at whatever time? And have you implemented that? Or are you just following what you've been taught about time? Meaning, oh, at this time I eat breakfast. At this time I eat lunch. At this time I eat dinner. At this time I do this thing. At this time, you see what I'm saying? My friends, I just want to encourage you when it comes to time to, to think outside of the box, because time is very important, right? So this isn't the end of the video. I'm going to come back with a different thought process about time.
It is us versus this is us versus life. Versus life. This is us versus life. This is us. This is us versus life.
All right, I had to give you guys a little bit more of the song because I like it that much, as you can see. Well, anyway, now I want to just kind of talk about quickly, then we'll end this video, okay? We want to talk about why time is the great equalizer. Some of you may be like raising your hand like, I know, I understand it, or I already knew it. I'm not learning it today. I already knew it. But time is a great equalizer. What it does is it gives you the opportunity to move forward. Now that's if you choose to. That's if you have the context of time in the proper perspective, because you can get stuck in time for a length of time. Let's use an example. Let's say, and we probably most of us have been there, and I'm sorry to say that most of us will be there if we haven't been there before. Let's say you lose someone in this life as you know it, a family member, a friend, or someone. They transition to, you know, the other life, uh, right? And so let's say you're very hurt about that. So there's a couple approaches to that, right? There's one approach is that a person could take this is devastating. I'm gonna treat this moment as if it is all that matters, and I don't know that it doesn't matter if it's gonna end or not. All I can see is this moment. I've lost someone I care about. I am totally distraught about it, for example. Another approach could be, well, once I get past that point that I just talked about, uh, whatever, then I will, move on with my life. Another approach would be, and here's the one, I recognize those other two levels, and I just take the time and I manipulate it and go, I'm just going to skip to the point of moving on. It doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean you don't care about whoever that may be. It just means that you understand time. See, time happens whether you want it to or not. That's a bit of the point here that I'm suggesting to you. Whether you have the proper perspective or not, the time is going to happen. That's why it's the great equalizer. You could choose to say, I'm going to mourn forever my loss of this person. Time is going to keep going. And it's going to force you to keep going. Let's say you're the person that says, well, I'm just going to mourn for this time period, and then after this time period, I'm going to move forward. Well, time is still going to be doing its own thing. Now, let's say you're the latter level of what I just described, if you're keeping up to what I was just saying. And you say, look, I recognize that there's a mourning period. I recognize that there's a period of where I'm going to recover. I'm just going to get to the point of where I'm moving on, not because I don't respect who I lost, none of that stuff. It's just that I realize I respect how time works. In any of those scenarios, time is going to happen. It's the great equalizer. Time doesn't care how long you choose to take to dwell in a certain period of time. The bigger picture of time moves on. I hope someone understands. This, like I said, this conversation was a little bit more, you have to think about it. The proof of it isn't as evident as maybe some of the other topics that was discussed. Like maybe you say, if someone say to you, hey, if you want to be a doctor, you got to go to this level of education. And people will say, oh, yeah, I get that. But what I'm talking about now, maybe people say, well, that's not proved in my understanding. But I'm telling you, it really is. It really is. It's happening around you. And I'm just suggesting to you to think about it. Just to think about it. do what you want. But I'm saying, just think about it. Time is the great equalizer. My friends, I wish you the best. As I've always said, whether you agree with me or not, whether you agree with this channel or not, doesn't matter. It's unconditional. The positive energy goes out to you, and hopefully it's received and it manifests itself into something good for your life. All right? This is Us versus Life. Let's get a little bit more of the song and then we're out until the next video. The next one's going to be a good one. And trust and believe, we are in talks with some great minds about the interviews, just like was promised in the first video. Trust and believe, it's coming. We're talking about some great minds that's going to help people and tell you, as people say, the game, to help you get to the point to where they got to and better. It's coming. So yeah, appreciate it. Please like, share, and subscribe. And just a reminder, one last thing, if anyone doesn't remember or is this your first video, look, if you heard some mistakes in this video, uh, understand this right here, right? I don't edit. We don't edit yet. And we should. Not that we don't want to give you guys a quality product, but we're a small channel. We got to build up. And we want to give you a understanding that this is a raw, real, not fabricated approach to life. So, thank you.